Hello everyone and welcome. And here behind me is my fake AI Thanksgiving table. So today we are talking about mystery composer number 4. So I want you to think about when you go to your Thanksgiving dinner, hopefully you have a family you can share with. Go around the table and just share maybe something positive they did in their life and something interesting that no one else may know about. Not something bad, just something good, something positive. Because that's exactly what happened with this composer. None of the family knew of the great music she composed until mysteriously the granddaughter got a call for an interview about her work. So how embarrassing is that? Now, to credit the family, we will discuss why this was a common practice back then. Once the women got married in the early 1900s, there was nothing else. It was family and domestic life. So we will go over that a little bit later, but right now, let's just talk about this mystery composer. And remember, when you are at your dinner, have everyone discuss something great that they did in their life that we may not know about, or you may not know about, I suppose. Okay, so this composer, female, and she spells her name different ways, the first name. And her granddaughter is the one that actually brought her more to light. She has a website we'll discuss later. And she was born, the ragtime composer, was born on August 19th in 1883 in Algona, Iowa. I hope I said that right. And it is a small town in the northern part of the state. She was the daughter of a modest family with limited details available about her parents or siblings, though her upbringing in rural Iowa likely exposed her to the lively musical traditions of the Midwest during the late 19th century. From a young age, she showed a natural talent for music, particularly the piano. And she self-taught herself, and she was very interested in the growing popularity of ragtime. And it said it was sweeping the United States. By her late teens, she had relocated to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And this was a burgeoning hub for ragtime composition and performance. And there was a vibrant sheet music publishing scene there, which offered opportunities for aspiring musicians. In her early 20s, she burst onto the ragtime scene with remarkable success, becoming one of the few women to achieve commercial prominence in a male-dominated genre. Her breakthrough came in 1906 with this particular song, and it was subtitled A Rag Oddity. And this is the mystery piece, so you need to figure out what is that mystery piece. And it was published by the successful firm Harry H. Pascoe in Milwaukee. The piece's quirky title and lively syncopation captured the era's whimsical spirit, quickly becoming a hit and selling thousands of copies, earning her royalties that provided financial independence, which was rare for women of that time. Showing this success, she followed with 2 more acclaimed rags, and they are the Wireless Rag of 1909, and this was inspired by the novelty of early radio technology. and Live Wire's Rag in 1910. And this showed an energy of electrical innovation. These works showcased her gift for catchy melodies and rhythmic drive, often performed in vaudeville halls, saloons, and parlors across the Midwest. Though she composed only a handful of pieces, fewer than a dozen in total, her output was polished and marketable, aligning with other pioneering female ragtime composers like May Afterhaida and Julia Lee Nybergall. Her music contributed to ragtime's golden age, bringing the gap to early jazz and influencing performers who recorded her works in the decades that followed. So let's take a moment to now listen to the mystery piece, and this is performed by Kristen Mosca. Okay, marriage, family, and later years. So she was composing, and it was brief but brilliant. And it was largely confined to the years of 1906 to 1910. However, I have seen the granddaughter's account be from 1902 to 1910. So there's a little discrepancy. It says in 1910, at age 27, she married Walter O. Olson, a businessman, and the couple settled in Milwaukee. And she largely retired from public musical life to focus on family, and this was very, very common in that time period. Raising children and managing household duties. This shift meant her ragtime legacy faded from family lore. By the mid-20th century, even her descendants were unaware of her youthful fame And then it says she lived quietly in Milwaukee for the rest of her life, occasionally playing piano for personal enjoyment, but never returning to composition or publication. She and her husband had at least one daughter, who later became the mother of her granddaughter. In 1977, that granddaughter, whose name is not publicly detailed, but who maintains a dedicated website, it's the composer name, .net. She received a surprising call from a reporter researching women in ragtime. Initially skeptical, she learned of her grandmother's hidden talent and embarked on a personal quest to rediscover and preserve her story, noting the alternate spelling as a family preference. This effort ensured her works were reissued in collections like Women Composers of Ragtime in the 1990s, featuring facsimiles of her original sheet music alongside biographies. So she died on March 12, 1950 in Milwaukee at age 66, leaving behind a modest but enduring mark on American music history. Her rags, especially this mystery rag, have been revived in modern recordings and performances. Today, her story, championed by her granddaughter's advocacy, highlights themes of forgotten female creativity and the personal cost of domesticity, I think that's how you say it, in the early 20th century. Her music remains a testament to quiet innovation, still tickling ivories in ragtime festivals and online tributes. Okay, so let's move on to what was the reason maybe the family didn't know about her. And this was very common in this time period. Women, not really forced to be domestic, but they loved it. I mean, most women in that period of time did not want feminism pushed forward. I know that's not talked about, but that is true. They wanted to keep the family together and raise children. Okay, so let's talk about societal pressures during that time on women composers. This was according to Grok, who hallucinates, you should know. That means, hallucinates means lies, because I've caught him in a lie one time. Okay, so the cult of domesticity. I don't know how to say that. Anyways, the core belief is a woman's natural role was wife and mother. Public ambition, especially in male-dominated fields like music publishing, was seen as selfish or unfeminine. I think that's the catch. It was seen as unfeminine. And the impact on composers. So marriage usually meant retirement, and composers such as May Afterhaida, Julia Lee Nybergall, and Irene Kozad all stopped publishing after the wedding. Then, this composer played piano at home but never composed again after 1910. Her granddaughter noted she just stopped. No one in the family even knew she'd been published. That's really sad. But, that is the cost of family. We need family. We need children. We need babies. So, it's a lot of work. If you're the only one at home, it's a lot of work. Can't do both. But I think that there would have been a way that maybe she could have kept composing and, I don't know. Anyway, so it says publishing realities were sheet music royalties went to the composer's legal name. Upon marriage, a woman's legal identity merged with her husband's. These are called coverture laws. The husbands could claim royalties or block reissues. The last drag of this mystery composer, Live Wires, was published before marriage, none after. So she published nothing after they were married. And they had no safety net. Unlike men, women rarely had independent income. Mr. Olson's business success meant that she didn't need to compose, but also didn't have to fight to continue. And then there was the performance and reputation risks of ragtime CD image being played in saloons and vaudeville. This composer never performed publicly. Her photo doesn't appear on sheet music, and it was actually hard to find pictures of her. I think I only found 2 or 3. And then the fear of gossip. It says, nice girls don't rag. Okay, so that was a society thing, just like we have society norms today. When I first read this bullet point, I had to laugh because I thought it said motherhood as full-time vacation. But it says vocation. Motherhood as full-time vocation. That's quite different. It's not a vacation. I know that. Okay, so the child rearing, social hosting, and household management left 0 hours for creative work. She raised at least 1 daughter, and her piano was in the living room, not a private studio. In contrast, Scott Joplin composed into his 40s, sometimes childless or separated from his wife. And the gatekeeping by publishers and critics. It says publishers marketed women as novelties, lady composers, ! But rarely promoted them equally. Her piece, that is the mystery piece, sold very well, but no follow-up contracts were after her marriage. And then critics dismissed women's rags as light or sentimental, ignoring the technical skill. It says, between most of these composers, except for Gladys Yelvington and Lillian Hardin Armstrong, these women all stopped publishing 1 year after marriage. And those people were this composer we're talking about, May Afterheide and Julia Lee Nybergall. Now it says Gladys Yelvington continued composing after marriage but divorced and used a male pseudonym. And then Lillian Hardin Armstrong composed into the 1930s, but as a professional jazz musician, And it does say that her husband was very successful, a successful businessman. It doesn't say what kind of business he was in. There's no records of that. We don't really know. But luckily, her music has survived, and it's beautiful music. It says that her husband's business was an industry or a company and not well documented in historical records. And what's interesting, if you look like on Ancestry.com and the old records of occupations, I mean, most of those occupations are no more. I mean, like wagon wheel maker, things that we wouldn't even think of today. So it could have been something along those lines. But it is interesting to trace your ancestors and see what they did for a living way back when. Okay, so thank you to the granddaughter for bringing her music alive again. And I think that's it for this composer. And I hope you can join me next Monday to find out who it is. And I'll play some more of her music from other artists playing. And I hope to see you then. Have a great day. And don't forget, ask your relatives at Thanksgiving what they did. What kind of great things they did that you don't know about. Okay, Talk to you later. Bye.